Chapter 221-knee pillow. After eating, Lee did not practice, but lay on Uchiha Makoto's soft thighs. Knee pillow. Fragrant, soft and comfortable. Not that Lee is a hooligan, but Uchiha Makoto insists on it. To express her gratitude, Uchiha Makoto offered her first lap pillow. Although Lee didn't know why she expressed her gratitude in this way. But, I have to say, the lap pillow is really comfortable. Most importantly, Lee can also bury his face in Uchiha Makoto's lower abdomen, gently smell Uchiha Makoto's body fragrance and the fragrance of cosmetics, and enjoy it very much. Everyone can try. It was not until night fell, that Lee and Uchiha Makoto set off for the outside of the village. The reason why they chose to set off at this time was because the two wanted to hide their eyes and ears. Tonight, Uchiha Makoto has only one purpose, and that is to test Lee's strength level. Time flies. 2 or 3 hours passed in the blink of an eye. After some testing, although Lee was out of breath, he did not collapse. He sat cross-legged on the ground. Although it looks like he is meditating to recover his physical strength, in fact, Lee is practicing Kowloon hegemony. Only the more tired you are, the more effective the practice of Kowloon hegemony body art will be. Lee's body in a way that the naked eye could not detect. Originally, Lee had a dragon-shaped pattern on his back. However, as time passed, the second dragon-shaped pattern began to appear on Lee's back, and it became more and more solid. 20 or 30 minutes later, Lee is still practicing. Uchiha Makoto walked to his side and looked at the way he was sitting upright. He admired it for a while, then coughed lightly and said, "Your taijutsu can already be compared with many chunins. If you know how to attack ninjutsu, then your strength will definitely reach the level of chunin. Of course, now you can be comparable to many chunins only by your own strength." This is Uchiha Makoto's analysis. However, on the system page, his strength is only an extraordinary first order. Lee resolutely said, "If I reach the second level of transcendence, then in the ranks of chunin, I will definitely become an invincible player in the same realm." After that, Lee took advantage of the moonlight to start exercising. Uchiha Makoto was holding a small notebook in his left hand and a pen in his right hand. He was writing something and concentrated. While exercising, Lee practiced the Kowloon dominant body art. Time flows. In the blink of an eye it was midnight. The moon is in the sky, and the sky is full of stars. Uchiha Makoto was sleepy, yawning, tears streaming down her beautiful eyes. She is different from Lee. Lee slept all afternoon today. And she has been busy today. Lee is full of energy now, but she is already exhausted. But she still resisted the exhaustion and didn't fall asleep. Lee didn't care about her. Anyway, I was by her side, and even if danger occurred, I could keep her safe. Therefore, if she sleeps here, it is not impossible. Lee, after a while, Uchiha Makoto fell asleep leaning on the stone. Lee continued to practice. He didn't stop practicing until he was tired. It was now midnight. I feel my body, strength, speed, endurance. These basic elements, although they have been slightly improved, but the effect is not very obvious. However, Kowloon hegemony body art has barely reached the second level, which makes Lee feel reborn, refreshed and effective. Chapter 222-drooling while sleeping. The cool night breeze blowing, Lee carried Uchiha Makoto home. It seemed to be very comfortable on Lee's back. Uchiha Makoto fell asleep directly, drooling non-stop, flowing down Lee's neck. Although Uchiha Makoto's saliva does not have any peculiar smell, and it is very sweet, Lee once tasted it himself, but Lee's face is still full of disgust. And, later, Uchiha Makoto was actually having a dream, kissing Lee's neck, and making some indecent sounds from his mouth. Lee not see the condition of Uchiha Makoto. Sure enough, everyone is the same. Whether it is a man or a beautiful woman, there is the most primitive desire in the body. Sigh, Lee Yi ran back home soon. Put Uchiha Makoto on the bed. Lee Yi went to wash up. However, in the process of washing, Uchiha Makoto actually broke in. Lee Yi, who was standing there in amazement in the bathroom, and said, "Thank you for sending me back, hard work." After saying that, Uchiha Makoto's eyes moved down from Lee Yi's cheeks, neck, chest, all the way down. Lee Yi recovered from the shock. He didn't block the movement. He is a big man, he can see it when he is seen, and he will not lose a piece of meat anyway. Uchiha Makoto pretended to be calm. Lee Yi could still see the hot yuhi on her neck and said, "It's getting late, go to bed." Uchiha Makoto shook his head. I'm in good spirits now, I'm going to wash your clothes." I don't know if it was because of nervousness or because of embarrassment, she stuttered. After speaking, she ran out with Lee Yi's clothes. It seems that this little girl also knows about her drooling while sleeping. Seeing such a hard-working Uchiha Makoto, Lee Yi smiled. She must know that she is drooling all over her body, so she is so diligent. Tisk tisk, such a beautiful beauty has such a bad habit. If it spreads out, her image of a goddess will definitely be shattered. Lee Yi murmured. Among Konoha villages, Uchiha Makoto is very popular. Very high. Not only is she beautiful, she is powerful, and more importantly, she is extremely powerful. Such a proud girl, wherever she goes, she will be sought after by countless people. Many people regard her as a goddess. However, for Lee Yi, goddesses are also people. The goddess also eats, drinks, and drools when she sleeps, just like ordinary people. It is precisely because of this idea that, from the very beginning, Lee Yi did not care much about this great beauty. But, to be honest, Lee Yi has now been targeted by countless people. His cohabitation with Uchiha Makoto has long spread throughout most of the Konoha village. Because the two are now 10-10, tired, together, Lee Yi's life is still very peaceful. However, once the two are separated, then there will be a lot of people looking for trouble with Lee Yi. Who told Lee Yi to sleep, their goddess? Lee Yi finished taking a shower, and Uchiha Makoto also finished washing his clothes. It was dawn now. The two rest. Time flies. It was not until the sun gradually changed from yuhi color to bright color that the two continued to exercise. The workout lasted for 2 weeks, and now there are 4 days left. Because they are all repetitive exercises, although they are tiring, there is nothing new or difficult, so in the blink of an eye, 3 days have passed without any waves. However, on the last day, the 4th day, a strange thing happened. Chapter 223-Dead Street. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. The 4th and final day of exercise is finally here. Lee Yi looked at the system panel. The line of strength, extraordinary second order. In other words, Lee Yi's current strength has reached the level of Chunin. Do not. He is stronger than most Chunins. Lee Yi has just reached the 2nd rank of Transcendent. His strength can be said to be the top among the ranks of Chunin. Uchiha Makoto walked ahead. Lee Yi looked at her twisted little strand and followed behind. These days, the relationship between Uchiha Makoto and Lee Yi is progressing rapidly. Not that Lee Yi took the initiative to hook up with her, but Uchiha Makoto took the initiative to give himself to Lee Yi to eat. However, even though Uchiha Makoto has been quite bold, Lee Yi has never touched her. Not that Lee Yi is a righteous man Kunzi, on the contrary, Lee Yi is an out-and-out scumbag. There is only one reason, and that is, Tsunade will be back tomorrow and the day after. Lee Yi didn't want to make mistakes that every man would make at this juncture. So, he held back. No matter how Uchiha Makoto tempted him, he held it back. This makes Uchiha Makoto very helpless and uncomfortable. As a girl, she has already expressed her feelings so clearly. Why is this man still indifferent? Does he not like me? Or is he just a piece of wood, and he doesn't notice my feelings at all? Uchiha Makoto has been thinking about this for 2 days. Uchiha Makoto's entanglement, Uzumaki Kushina has been watching and anxious. As the most eccentric woman in Konoha village, Uzumaki Kushina couldn't bear to see Uchiha Makoto so sad and tangled, so she gave her an idea, that is, cooked rice. Put Lee Yi on. Previously, Uchiha Makoto scoffed at this approach. Lee Yi choose her through her own efforts, become his woman, and love him forever. But now, Uchiha Makoto is heartbroken by Uzumaki Kushina's proposed loss plan. Lee Yi again today. If Lee Yi is still vague, then she will attack Lee Yi tonight. Never underestimate the power of a woman to treat love. If a woman really loves a man, then she will be more anxious than men to want raw rice to cook cooked rice. First-hand experience. Work out for a day. Sunset. Lee Yi walked side by side with Uchiha Makoto on the way home. Uchiha Makoto lowered his head slightly, his eyes flickered, obviously wandering thousands of miles away. She wants to express herself. However, she hadn't mustered up the courage, and suddenly, Lee Yi took her little hand. Uchiha Makoto's delicate body trembled slightly. Could this piece of wood finally accept me? However, what was waiting was Lee Yi's serious voice. No, it's too strange, use Sharingan to look around. Although Lee Yi's words made Uchiha Makoto a little lonely, she still did not hesitate to open the second Tomo Sharingan. She raised her head and looked around, and after a circle, she said, nothing is different, why? However, before Uchiha Makoto finished speaking, his voice stopped abruptly. Because there is no one on the street. Logically speaking, the time is only dusk, and the streets of Konoha village cannot be less crowded. Even if there are few people, there will be at least a dozen people. But now, there is no one but them. Empty, it's a dead street. Chapter 224-something happened. Uchiha Makoto continued to look around with Sharingan. Her expression gradually became serious. How is it? Lee Yi asked. Uchiha Makoto replied. It's not right, it's very wrong, it doesn't seem like this is Konoha village. Did we hit demonic illusion? Or did we enter a certain formation? Lee Yi asked. Uchiha Makoto shook his head and replied, neither. That is. Lee Yi blinked. I don't know either. Uchiha Makoto said. Look at these shops, there is no one, not even a seller. Do you think this is Konoha village? Lee Yi touched his chin and thought. Weird. It's really weird. There are 2 guards at the gate of Konoha village, let's go and see. Lee Yi suggested. Good. Uchiha Makoto agreed without hesitation. Before entering the village, they saw 2 guards at the entrance of the village. However, when the 2 came to the entrance of the village again. What the hell is there a guard? There is no one. Uchiha Makoto's hair stands on end. Why did the 2 guards who were still standing here suddenly disappear? In the end, what happened? Looking at the brightly lit, but silent Konoha village ahead, Uchiha Makoto's forehead is already sweating. The entire Konoha village seems to have turned into a dead city at this moment. Lee Yi was not as panicked as Uchiha Makoto. If this mutation was aimed at them, they would have been attacked by now. But from the beginning to the end, they were not attacked in any way. It seems that the other party is not targeting them. What to do? Uchiha Makoto asked. Lee Yi replied, there is nothing to be afraid of when the soldiers come to block the water and cover the soil, but let's go home first and see what changes at home. Lee Yi's calmness reassured Uchiha Makoto a lot. Strong she is only a girl of about 20 years old. Facing such a strange scene, how could she not be afraid? However, fortunately there is a man by his side, and this man can make him feel a great sense of security. This makes Uchiha Makoto invisible to Lee Yi even more. Lee Yi originally planned to use the devil fruit and took Uchiha Makoto directly back home. However, in the end, Li Yi did not do this, but walked back home. Back home. Night has not yet come completely, and there is still a hint of light between the heaven and the earth. However, there was no sound from the outside world. Dead silence. Silence worse than death. Li Yi first checked the home. There are no changes at home. Li Yi shut himself in the closed toilet and used the power of the door fruit. You know, even if Li Yi is now caught in the enemy's formation, he can instantly transfer space to his home. The door at the foot. Li Yi fell into the door. First, he stayed in the space for a while, and then walked out of the space and came to Uchiha Makoto's bedroom. Uchiha Makoto is changing clothes. Seeing Li Yi suddenly appear, Uchiha Makoto was taken aback. But she didn't say much, and continued to change her clothes. During these 3 days, Li Yi had already seen Uchiha Makoto completely. Therefore, Uchiha Makoto is not very wary of Li Yi anymore. And she was just changing her coat, and she was wearing clothes in both places, so even if she was seen, it wouldn't hurt. Uchiha Makoto, who had already changed his clothes, Li Yi's thin lips parted lightly and said, "Something big in Konoha village." Chapter 225-weird. Li Yi's serious voice and expression made Uchiha Makoto feel a little pressure. What the hell happened? Did everyone just disappear out of thin air? She asked. I don't even know what happened. Li Yi shook his head, but one thing is certain, that is, there is definitely a big problem in Konoha village. Then what shall we do now? Uchiha Makoto asked. For some reason, with Li Yi, she became less and less assertive. Maybe it's a sense of security. Li Yi touched his chin and said, "Go and hide in my space." Good. Uchiha Makoto nodded in agreement without any hesitation. So, the two came to the space of the door fruit. The space in the door fruit is a black and green color, like a watermelon rind. Moreover, the space is not dark without light. Li Yi sat opposite Uchiha Makoto. Li Yi, I remember this space. You can only stay for a while at most, right? Uchiha Makoto asked. Before, they could only stay in this space for a few minutes before being expelled. Li Yi replied, as my strength improves, we can stay here for about an hour now. What to do after that hour? Uchiha Makoto asked. The soldiers will block the water and cover the soil. We will stay here for an hour first, and then we will go out to take a look. This hour is probably the most dangerous hour in Konoha village. Li Yi squinted his eyes and said. You mean? Uchiha Makoto couldn't help but gasped. Li Yi's meaning is very obvious. Someone is going to start a war on Konoha village. Konoha village disappeared. Now is the best time to destroy Konoha village. And Uchiha Makoto finally knew why Li Yi hid in the space of the door fruit. Absolutely safe for them to hide here. Even if there is a war in Konoha village, they can save their lives. It's really like his style. Uchiha Makoto gave a wry smile. If Li Yi was not around, then Uchiha Makoto would definitely go out to find out the truth. However, Li Yi just doesn't do this. Even if he doesn't know the truth of the matter, he has to hide and prioritize his own life safety. In fact, Li Yi's approach is the most correct. The more strange it is, the more you have to find a place to hide, instead of finding out the truth. Curiosity killed the cat. Looking at the past and present, which of those short-lived people is not overly curious? Time flows by minute by minute. For Uchiha Makoto, every second is an ordeal. After all, she has family and friends. Finally, an hour passed by. Li Yi and Uchiha Makoto were squeezed out of the space where the door fruit was. Go back to the room. First thing Uchiha Makoto does is open the window and look at the outside world. However, to her surprise, the outside world has returned to normal. The streets are full of people coming and going. What the hell is going on with him? Uchiha Makoto was stunned. Li Yi also narrowed his eyes tightly. The original Hokage, this never happened. Moreover, to make all the people in a village disappear, and then all appear. This kind of heaven-defying thing is not something ordinary people can do. Even Uchiha Madara can do it. What the hell is going on? Lee Yi couldn't help but fell into contemplation. Chapter 226 Another Traveler. Lee Yi and Uchiha Makoto visited one by one. Uncle, what were you doing an hour ago? Uchiha Makoto is asking a big man who sells watermelons. Scratched his head. An hour ago. I was selling watermelons. Are you sure you're not in a hurry to leave suddenly? Uchiha Makoto asked. Big man shook his head. Of course not, even if it is the most urgent matter, I will solve it there. The big man pointed to a big tree not far away. Uchiha Makoto glanced at the big tree, and a disgusting color flashed in his beautiful eyes. Urinating anywhere is so unsanitary. Girl, do you want to buy melons? If you don't stand here and delay my business. The big man said angrily. Broken uncle. Goodbye uncle. Uchiha Makoto bowed, turned and left. Then, Uchiha Makoto asked several more sellers. An hour ago, these people all disappeared, the store was empty, there was no one. However, when Uchiha Makoto asked them if anything happened an hour ago, they all said nothing and kept busy. If one or two people say that, that's fine. However, everyone Uchiha Makoto asked, said so. An hour ago, I haven't encountered anything, I've been busy all the time. Lee Yi and Uchiha Makoto asked a total of 30 or 40 people. The result is exactly the same. What's the matter? Are we blinded? Uchiha Makoto couldn't help but start to doubt himself. This world is like this, when you are different from others, even if you were right, you will doubt yourself. However, Lee Yi not only did not doubt himself in the slightest, but touched his chin and said, let alone Uchiha Madara, even if Otsutsuki Kagaya was reborn and had an infinite Tsukuyomi, it would not be able to do this. Suddenly, Lee Yi's eyes lit up, as if he had remembered something. There are 9 levels in the realm of strength stipulated by the system, and the 8th level is equivalent to Otsutsuki Kagaya, the ancestor of chakra, and the 9th level is far more than Otsutsuki Kagaya. Lee Yi touched his chin and said, in other words, there are people in this world who are stronger than Otsutsuki Kagaya. All the people of Konoha village just disappeared suddenly, I'm afraid it's that kind of person who did it. Thinking of this, Lee Yi's breathing became more and more rapid, and he continued to think, but in the original, Hokage, there is no such person at all. Otsutsuki Kagaya is the most powerful, and there is no one stronger than Otsutsuki Kagaya. In other words, this kind of person is not a character in the original book of Hokage, but it's a person who has crossed into this world just like me. Lee Yi's eyes widened suddenly. Without the slightest hesitation, Lee Yi asked directly in his heart, system. Does anyone else have a system in this world? The system replied in a crisp voice, back to the host, I don't know. Is that theoretically possible? Lee Yi asked in a different way. System replied, returning to the host is theoretically possible. Lee Yi continued to ask, then let me put it another way. There is a person, like me, who has traveled into this world and obtained a system. He uses the ability of the system to make all the people of Konoha village disappear in an instant. Then all came back in the next instant, but because I also have the system, his system power doesn't work for me. Is this guess true? System replied, back to the host, your guess is theoretically correct, it can be established completely. Chapter 227 Self-Esteem. Hi. Lee Yi couldn't help taking a deep breath. If in this world, besides him, there is a second traverser, and that traverser also has a system, then things will be troublesome. Lee Yi immediately asked, then how much do you think what happened just now is related to my guess? System replied, back to the host, I don't know. Lee Yi flipped a Byakugan, guess what? Go back to the host, no. Such an answer made Lee Yi keep turning over Byakugan. So speechless. But then again, can you detect the existence of another system? Li Yi asked. System replied. Return to the host, no. In other words, the other party can't detect your presence, right? Li Yi asked. Back to the host, not necessarily. The system replied. What's not necessarily? Can't you detect the other party's existence, but the other party can detect your existence? Li Yi stared slightly and asked. System replied. Back to the host, there is such a possibility. Why are you so weak? Li Yi couldn't help but flip a Byakugan. System replied. Back to the host, it's not that the system is not weak, but that different systems have different types. The type of infinite evolution system determines that it is internal or external, and naturally cannot detect the existence of other systems. Oh! Flashed across Li Yi's eyes. This is also the first time the system has explained itself since he obtained it. The past, the system would answer whatever Li Yi asked, without a single word of nonsense. But this time, the system is talking so much nonsense. It seems that this thing also has self-esteem. Li Yi touched his chin and smiled teasingly. And the next moment, Li Yi breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I hid before, otherwise, I would probably be noticed by the other party. Don't blame him for being cowardly. Li Yi has been in this world for 5 or 6 years, he has just obtained the system for more than 2 weeks. If the other party came to this world at the same time as him, but on the day of crossing, the other party obtained the system, then the current strength of the other party is immeasurable. In order to avoid confrontation with such a person, Li Yi chose to hide at the time instead of coming out to find out the truth of the matter. This approach was very wise. Li Yi, I'm going to Hokage's office, will you go? The soft voice of Uchiha Makoto brought Li Yi back from his thoughts. Li Yi shook his head gently. Go, I'll wait for you at home. Good. Uchiha Makoto head taps. The two separate. Li Yi did not go home, but walked in the village of Konoha, while thinking and chasing for possible clues. There are more and more enemies, not only the internal enemies Uchiha Fugaku, Kaharu Utatane, Shimura Danzo, etc., but also the external enemies of the Kingdom of Rain, the Kingdom of Water, and the mysterious person who made this incident today. Thinking of this, Li Yi couldn't help sighing. It would be great if they could be wiped out. I still have to improve my strength as soon as possible. In this world, strength is the fundamental means to decide everything. If that's the case, then, what species will be devoured next? He has now completely digested the bloodline ability of that turtle. Devouring divine body is ready to use again. So, next, devour what? Of course, just as Lin Chen was thinking about it, a strong sense of crisis suddenly came. Chapter 228-Devour the Ants. Li Yi intends to devour the ants. Although the ant is small, its bloodline ability is unparalleled. An ant can lift 400 times its own weight and drag an animal 1700 times its own weight. If Li Yi can inherit this ability, then his power is invincible in the ninja world. Under the moonlight, Li Yi looked at the ants on the ground and fell into deep thought. My weight is 120 pounds, or 60 kilograms. 400 times the weight, that's 24,000 kilograms, or 24 tons. 1,700 times the weight, that's 100,000 kilograms, or 100 tons. Li said to his heart, the weight of the Rui golden hoop is 13,500 jin, which is less than 7,000 kilograms, or 7 tons. If I really inherit the ability of ants, then the strength I can lift is the same as the Italian golden hoop. Still heavier. Thinking of this, Li Yi was excited. If he can wield dozens of tons of power with one punch, then even if there is a mountain in front of him, Li Yi has the confidence to split it. Just do it. Li Yi picked an ant that looked very healthy and started devouring it. After a minute, Li Yi's hand has disappeared out of thin air. Devour complete. Li Yi first found a hollow surface and looked at his face by the moonlight. The appearance has not changed. Then, Li Yi intends to test his strength. His test method is very simple, hit the tree. Outside the village, in the forest, Li Yi punched a hugging tree. Boom! With a loud noise, the tree broke off at the waist and fell to the ground. Li Yi's eyes. After. Boom, boom, boom. Dozen trees were knocked down by Li Yi with one punch. Li Yi got the approximate data of his own strength. The power of a punch is about 3 tons. However, the weight of the punch is not the same as the weight of the lift. The weight of the punch is about explosive power, and the weight that bursts out in an instant is definitely more than the weight of the weightlifting. Therefore, Li Yi estimates that the weight he can lift now should only be about 1 ton. Although this result did not reach the expected value, Li Yi was still very satisfied. On Earth, there is a boxing champion named Tyson, and the weight of his punch is only 1,600 pounds, or 800 kilograms. And Li Yi's punch now has 3 tons, or 3,000 kilograms. Jonin who only know ninjutsu, I'm afraid it can directly smash the opponent's internal organs. My expected value is 24 tons in weight and 100 tons in toe. But in fact, my weight is only about 1 ton, and the toe weight has not been measured, but it should be about 5 tons. Li Yi said in his heart, I didn't fully inherit the bloodline ability of ants. In fact, this result was already expected by Li Yi. It is impossible for him to fully inherit the bloodline ability of ants. Otherwise, his strength will exceed the limit that his body can bear. To put it more simply, he swung a punch and was able to knock his arms out. Think about it. You want to hit someone, throw a punch, but throw your arm out. How embarrassing. The Devourer is based on my body, so I don't gain abilities beyond the limits of my body. Li Yi nodded secretly. To be honest, Li Yi is very satisfied with this result. He has self-confidence, his strength has surpassed most of the Jonin. What is this concept? In this world, there are many ninjas who specialize in strength. They worked hard for decades and finally, with their strength, became Jonin. However, Li Yi's current strength is comparable to them, and even surpasses the strength that they have been training hard for decades. So, what do you mean by this concept? Chapter 229-expect. Back home. Uchiha Makoto asked, did you find out anything? Li Yi shook his head, then asked, how about you? What did the Hokage say? Uchiha Makoto replied, Hokage-sama didn't notice anything different. Li Yi stretched out 2 fingers. There are 2 possibilities. 1, the 2 of us had hallucinations, and we hid in my space for an hour, and the hallucinations were automatically dispelled. 2, the one who shot Konoha village was an extremely powerful one. Existence. Which is more likely? Uchiha Makoto asked. Li Yi did not answer, but instead asked, what about you? Which possibility do you prefer? The first kind. Uchiha Makoto said. Li Yi, why? Uchiha Makoto replied, because the second possibility does not exist and should not exist. If such a person does exist, then the whole world is over, and that kind of person is too cheating. That's right. Li Yi nodded slightly. Uchiha Makoto asked, so, Li Yi, you also prefer the first guess? Li Yi nodded again. Well, that's right. Before, Li Yi thought that the person who shot at Konoha village should also be a traveler. But now that I think about it, this kind of speculation should be unlikely. If that traveler is really so powerful that it can make everyone in Konoha village disappear in an instant, it means that the other party has the strength to destroy the entire Konoha village and even the entire world in an instant. If such a person existed, he should have become famous all over the world. However, Li Yi has been in this world for 5 or 6 years, but he has never heard of such a person. He has heard of all characters in the original Hokage, without a single exception. Of course, if there really is another transmigrator in this world, then Li Yi is still very happy, maybe the two can still communicate. Of course, this kind of thing is extremely unlikely, almost negligible. If it's a hallucination, it makes sense. It is autumn now, and many flowers are blooming, such as chrysanthemum, sweet-scented osmanthus, dahlia, and the pollen of some flowers can make people hallucinate. The two have been training in the field all day, so it makes sense and reasonable that they will inhale some kind of hallucinatory pollen. No longer entangled in this matter, Uchiha Makoto said, "Lee Yi, you should rest now. Tomorrow and the day after tomorrow will be the day for your exams. Keep your spirits up, prepare yourself, and wait for Tsunade-sama to come back." Lee Yi nodded. To be honest, he doesn't feel any pressure at all for the Chunin exam tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Because his abilities in all aspects have surpassed Chunin. Whether it is strength, speed, agility, evasion, endurance, or other aspects, now he is impeccable. Especially his power is enough to use the word horror to describe it. Tsunade also possesses very powerful powers. She practiced the technique of 100 heroes and possessed a strange power. In the original book of Hokage, even a person like Raikage who has practiced speed up to the pinnacle, and Tsunade's arm wrestling, did not win. Tsunade's punch can break a mountain. Although the current Tsunade has not yet reached the peak of the original work, it is also extremely powerful. I just don't know, Tsunade is proud of the strange power, compared with Lee Yi, who is stronger or weaker, who is higher and who is lower. Looking forward to it. Chapter 230-Sleeping Pills. The night is deep. Lee Yi lay on the sofa, thinking with his eyes closed. Devouring the divine body can only be used once in 3 days. What to devour next time? Or a living person? Lee resolutely said, as long as I swallow a living person, I can get chakra and use ninjutsu. However, it is not impossible to swallow animals. Thinking for a while, Lee Yi finally said, forget it, let's talk about it after 3 days, anyway, you can only use it once in 3 days. Then, Lee Yi opened the system panel. The line of strength has changed again. Plus behind the second order extraordinary. Strength, extraordinary second order plus. System, what does this mean? Lee Yi asked. The system replied in a crisp voice. Return to the host, the meaning of the plus sign means that your true combat power has far exceeded the extraordinary second order. Lee Yi touched his chin, that is to say, because of the skyrocketing strength, my real combat power has also been improved, right? Go back to the host, that's right. The system replied. If that's the case, then why am I still a second order supernatural? Lee Yi asked. System replied. Go back to the host, because combat power is not strength, your combat power has surpassed the extraordinary second order, but your speed, endurance, agility, dodge, experience and many other indicators have not exceeded the extraordinary second order, so your realm, still it's just the extraordinary second order. So it is. Lee Yi nodded, that is to say, the existence of this plus sign means that I can now fight across borders, right? System, go back to the host, so to speak. That's really exciting. Lee Yi smiled. His real combat power has far surpassed the extraordinary second order. Just like Guy in the original Hokage, he's just an elite Jonin, aka the 4th rank of transcendence. But he almost kicked out the existence of the finale. At that time, Uchiha Madara not only became a 10-tails Jinchuriki, column force, but also a Rinnegan. Although it has not reached the level of the 6 Paths Immortal, that is, it has not yet reached the extraordinary 7th level, but it has surpassed Senju Hashirama, which is already beyond the extraordinary 6th order. Uchiha Madara's strength at that time was mixed between the extraordinary 6th order and the extraordinary 7th order. But even so, he was almost kicked to death by him. So, is his real combat power really only the extraordinary 4th order? Say it, no fool will believe it. According to Lee Yi's own inference, his current combat power, even among Jonin, may be among the best. However, his realm is still only Chunin. Indicators such as speed and endurance dragged him down. However, Lee Yi is also very satisfied with this result. In more than 2 weeks, from an ordinary person who is not even a ninja, his combat power reached Jonin. One can imagine how fast he is. Suddenly his thoughts changed. However, Tsunade will be back tomorrow and the day after. Thinking of this, Lee Yi glanced at the room where Uchiha Makoto was. Alas! He sighed lightly. If Tsunade knew that he was living with another girl now, and that the girl's beauty and temperament were not inferior to hers, how would she react? Although letting your girlfriend eat a little bit of jealousy can stabilize the development of the relationship, but too much jealousy will make you feel insecure, and even lead to the breakdown of a relationship. Alas, I'm playing with fire. Lee Yi sighed lightly. A very strong drowsiness swept over. Was so strong that Lee Yi felt incredible. This kind of sleepiness is like the effect of sleeping pills. Lee Yi couldn't resist, and he fell asleep as soon as he closed his eyes. Chapter 231 that night. Midnight. Lee Yi slept soundly. A woman walked up to him. Through the moonlight, you can see the beautiful face of the woman. Uchiha Makoto. She is really beautiful. She sat beside Lee Yi, stretched out her little hand, and stroked Lee Yi's cheek. Tilda. Lee Yi's mouth made a squeak, and his brows were slightly wrinkled. However, Uchiha Makoto is not afraid. Because she knew that Lee Yi would not wake up tonight. Why are you so confident? Because there is no more water in the cup on the table. Spent 2 weeks with Lee Yi, Uchiha Makoto knows a habit of Lee Yi, drinking half a glass of water before going to bed. And tonight, Uchiha Makoto put a powerful sleeping pill on Lee Yi in his water glass while he was not paying attention. The so-called powerful sleeping pills, as the name suggests, even a ninja who uses huge chakras can't understand the medicinal properties of this medicine. What's more, there is not much chakra in Lee Yi's body. So, this evening, Lee Yi will definitely not wake up. Touching Lee Yi's cheek, Uchiha Makoto's eyes became more and more blurred. Lee Yi, Lee Yi, Lee Yi tilde. She called out Lee Yi's name softly, and slowly kissed her delicate Yuhi lips. At the same time, in her mind, the words of Uzumaki Kushina kept ringing. If it really doesn't work, then cook rice with raw rice. I still don't believe he can't be responsible for you. Reason gradually fades away. The only thing left in his mind is the most primitive instinct. Uchiha Makoto hugged Lee Yi. Princess hug. Yuhi marks on Lee Yi's mouth and face. I've decided. Lee Yi sleeping in his arms, Uchiha Makoto's beautiful eyes flashed a firm color. The princess hugged Lee Yi and returned to the bedroom. The door closed gently. Uchiha Makoto's deliberately low groan came from the room. The next morning, when the sun was just halfway up, Lee Yi woke up. How did you wake up? Painful wake up. Where does it hurt? Back pain. Oh no, kidney pain. Opening his eyes and seeing the ceiling for the first time, Lee Yi felt that something was wrong. Because it's not the ceiling in the living room, but the ceiling in the bedroom. That is, he is sleeping in the bedroom now. However, he clearly remembered that he slept on the sofa last night. What happened? Moreover, what's the matter with the long-lost soreness in the waist? Lee Yi sat up with his waist that was aching in pain. There is no one around. But there is still fragrance. Uchiha Makoto. Suddenly, Lee Yi's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Faintly, he guessed a clue. Without the slightest hesitation, he lifted the quilt and looked at his XX. Moreover, there was a pool of fresh Yuhi's blood on the sheets. Sure enough. Lee Yi patted his forehead, and his mood became extremely complicated at this moment. Lee Yi searched all the rooms. Uchiha Makoto is not there. Moreover, her line of Lee is also gone. The girl is gone. After reaching this conclusion, Lee Yi's heart suddenly felt empty. Lee Yi did not eat breakfast. He was sitting on the sofa, his eyes twinkling, and he didn't know what he was thinking about. Time flies. The sun has been fully exposed, and the bright blood Yuhi color has turned into a dazzling brightness. Li Yi has been sitting on the sofa for more than 2 hours. Even though they have lived together in 2 lifetimes and read countless women, Li Yi still doesn't know what to do in the face of Uchiha Makoto took him out. Chapter 232-Choice of Violets. Boom. The knock on the door from outside brought Li Yi back to reality from his thoughts. He stretched and opened the door. What caught my eye was a very familiar woman's face. Yuhi has hair that reaches her waist and has a slender figure. Who is this woman? Uzumaki Violets. Master, I'm back. This is the first sentence that Uzumaki Violet sees Li Yi. The voice is still delicate, very pleasant. Oh, you're back. Li Yi nodded. Come in. Uzumaki Violet saw that Li Yi was in a low mood. Although he was puzzled, he didn't say much. Li Yi sat on the sofa. Uzumaki Violet sat opposite Li Yi. Li Yi asked, "What happened in these 2 weeks?" Uzumaki Violet answered truthfully. According to her, nothing really happened in the past 2 weeks. She was just locked in a room, asked a few small questions every day, and someone tested her with chakra. However, Li Yi had anticipated these situations before. So, Uzumaki Violet successfully passed the test. Any foreigner who wants to immigrate to the Land of Fire must go through a 2-week observation period. Now that 2 weeks have passed, Uzumaki Violet has successfully passed the inspection, so she will be granted the status of Konoha village immediately. Although separated for 2 weeks, Uzumaki Violet doesn't seem to have changed a bit, but Li Yi doesn't trust Uzumaki Violet anymore. Time can change a person. Who knows what Uzumaki Violet has been through these 2 weeks? Is it really what she said? Uncertain. Therefore, Li Yi asked in his heart, "System, can I take her as my servant or slave?" System replied, "Go back to the host, of course." Li Yi asked, "How to do it?" System replied, "Go back to the host, just give her a chance to evolve and that's it." What's the reason? Li Yi blinked. System explained, "Back to the host, the infinite evolution system is bound to you. In words that you can understand, you are the infinite evolution system, and the infinite evolution system is you. If Uzumaki Violet accepts an evolution opportunity, then she will naturally become a dependent of the infinite evolution system, that is, your dependent, and naturally cannot betray you in her entire life." Quote. So it is. Li Yi nodded secretly in his heart. Although taking a living person as his dependence is against humanism. However, Uzumaki Violet said from the beginning that she will always release herself in this life and never betray. And, without Li Yi, Uzumaki Violet can't live either. However, Li Yi's mood today is a bit complicated, far less decisive than the previous killing, so he asked, "Violet." Uzumaki Violet straightened up immediately. "Li Yi, you can become a member of Konoha village in no time. I will give you a chance now. You can choose, one is to serve me as my master forever, to be my servant for a lifetime, and the other is to regain your freedom, not only in Konoha village. If you take root in it, maybe you will meet a man you like in the future, and it will not be a problem to get married, have children, and live a happy life in the future. Which one do you choose?" Uzumaki Violet hardly hesitated. "I choose the first one." Li Yi could feel her determination. So he didn't ask more, but smiled slightly. "Is that so?" Chapter 233-Die Hard. Violet knew very well that without Li Yi, she would not be resurrected. Therefore, she has already decided that everything about herself belongs to Li Yi. Even if she is against the whole world, she will stand with Li Yi. She will never betray Li Yi. Therefore, she will answer Li Yi's question without hesitation. Although an evolutionary opportunity made Li Yi quite distressed. However, if you can get a loyal subordinate, even if you spend an evolutionary opportunity, it will be worth it. However, just as Li Yi was about to do it, the crisp voice of the system suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding. Congratulations to the host for triggering the mission. Give Uzumaki Violet a chance to evolve. Without the slightest hesitation, open the system panel immediately. The task column, there is one more item. Give Uzumaki Violet a chance to evolve. I rely on. System, you really understand me. Lee Yi's eyes lit up. Does it mean that after giving Uzumaki an evolutionary opportunity, he not only has nothing to lose, but may also gain some additional rewards? Like the 9 Dragons Tyrant body art. This system is really getting more and more humanized. Therefore, without any hesitation, Lee Yi said directly, Violet, close your eyes. Uzumaki Violet was very obedient and closed her eyes obediently. However, her cheeks have long been red Yuhi. She thought that Lee Yi must have done that to her, so she made her close her eyes. But, no problem. Just do it, anyway, since the moment I was resurrected, I have already decided that I will be his property for the rest of my life, and I will never change my mind. Anyway, sooner or later, you have to hand over everything to him, early or late, it doesn't matter. However, what made Uzumaki Violet shy was that Lee Yi didn't do what she imagined to her, but just stretched out his finger and placed it between her eyebrows. 5 seconds later, Lee Yi removed his finger and said, Okay, it's over. Huh. Uzumaki Violet opened her eyes and opened her small mouth slightly. What? Are you done? Is this the end? You haven't stripped my clothes yet. Although I don't know what Lee Yi has done, Uzumaki Violet is very disappointed. Very lost. Involuntarily, she pursed her lips slightly, and looked like a little widow who had just been abandoned by a man. In fact, during those 5 seconds, Lee Yi had a conversation with the system. System, host, what do you want to evolve her? Lee Yi, bloodline. System, ding, start to evolve bloodline. Ding, bloodline evolution succeeded. Uzumaki Violet lies in the bloodline of her Uzumaki clan. Therefore, to choose the best, it is necessary to evolve the bloodline. It took 5 seconds in total. Uzumaki Violet has not only evolved its bloodline, but has also completely become a dependent of Lee Yi, and has been loyal to Lee Yi since then. Lee Yi asked her if she felt any change. Uzumaki Violet only felt that her body was cool, like a cool breeze, very comfortable. It seems that the specific bloodline changes can only be seen through battles. Lee Yi asked her again if she felt a change in her thinking. Uzumaki Violet shook her head. It seems that before becoming his retinue, Uzumaki Violet's loyalty to him can be learned from the sun and the moon. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the mission. Get an opportunity to evolve. At the same time, the voice of the system sounded in my mind. Lee Yi smiled with satisfaction. This time, not only did he not lose the chance to evolve, but he also got a powerful and loyal subordinate. How could he not be happy when he was so fortunate? Chapter 234-exam. Boom. There was a knock on the door. Does the master need to open the door? Violet asked immediately. Lee Yi nodded. Yes. It should be the one who asked me to take the exam. Good host. Violet obediently opened the door. Standing outside the door is Hokage-sama's secretary, Nara Shikaku. Lee Yi got up and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to call me in person, I'm really honored. It's my part, nothing to be honored with. Nara Shikaku shook his head and said, let's go, take the theory test first, and then have the actual combat in the afternoon. In the afternoon. That means Tsunade will be back in the afternoon. Lee Yi's eyes lit up. Chunin exam is divided into theoretical and practical. The actual examiner is Tsunade. Lee Yi originally thought that the actual combat would take place tomorrow, but he didn't expect it to be this afternoon. Nara Shikaku nodded. Yes, if nothing else happens, Tsunade-sama will be back at noon today. Suddenly the conversation changed. However, you don't have much respect for Lord Tsunade. Who gave you the courage to call him by his first name? Lee Yi grinned. This is my habit. Okay, don't talk about that, just come with me. Nara Shikaku said with a shrug. Oh yes, little sister, you are with me too. As soon as he turned around, he immediately turned his head, looked at Uzumaki Violet and said, "Me too." Violet's eyes blinked. "Yeah, your strength is very good. You should be able to become a Chunin too, just take the test with Lee." Nara Shikaku said. "Ah, is this okay? But I haven't learned theoretical knowledge." Uzumaki Violet opened her small mouth slightly and looked at Lee with a look of help. Nara Shikaku said with a smile, "Don't worry, it's all very basic theoretical knowledge, even if you don't learn it, and the Chunin exam is mainly about strength, not theoretical knowledge. What's the use of having knowledge but no strength?" "Is that so?" Uzumaki Violet's stinger nodded, thoughtfully. "And this is what Lord Hokage personally ordered. You just became a citizen of Konoha village, so it's better not to violate Lord Hokage's order." Nara Shikaku said again. Although Nara Shikaku had already said that for this sake, Uzumaki Violet still looked at Lee, waiting for his order. If Lee doesn't let her take the exam, then she won't take the exam even if she dies. She is totally loyal to Lee. Lee said with a smile, "Since it was ordered by Lord Hokage himself, then we have to participate. Let's participate together, it won't take long anyway." "Well, okay." Uzumaki Violet nodded in agreement. Nara Shikaku's mouth twitched. He glanced at Lee, and then at Uzumaki Violet, his eyes echoed between the two, his face showing an incredible expression. Intuition tells him that the relationship between the two is very intriguing. Nara Shikaku didn't dwell on the matter, though. "Let's go." The three left together. In the morning is the theory test. As Nara Shikaku said, the theory test is not difficult, and most of it is about how to become a qualified and good ninja. Therefore, just after the exam, Lee was sure that he had passed the exam. Uzumaki Violet left the exam room earlier than Lee, so it must be very relaxed. It's noon in the blink of an eye. Chapter 235-Dilemma. Lee and Uzumaki Violet are having a meal. He is a little excited. Tsunade soon. However, compared to excitement, Lee is more afraid. He has now asked for Uchiha Makoto's body. Although not voluntary. However, if you want it, you want it. The world is monogamous. So, between Uchiha Makoto and Tsunade, Lee can only choose one. Lee wanted to choose Tsunade, but he already wanted Uchiha Makoto's body. Although he didn't know what Uchiha Makoto thought, if he just wanted to have a one-night relationship with him, it's okay to say that last night was a dream and forget it. But if Uchiha Makoto wants to hold him accountable, he's going to have a big head. Moreover, if Tsunade knew that he and Uchiha Makoto had already done it, then, with Tsunade's temperament, I am afraid that he would voluntarily give up Lee. So, what Uchiha Makoto did, pushed him into a dilemma and troubled him. However, Lee doesn't blame Uchiha Makoto. Blame it on your own charm. Although this kind of remark is a bit narcissistic, it is the truth. From the beginning, Lee never took the initiative to hook up with Uchiha Makoto, but she fell in love with him and gave him her first night on the last night. Alas. Lee sighed lightly. Even he didn't know what to do. Of course, if he wants to be a scumbag, it's okay to say, the big deal is to hug and play with both. However, Lee in this life doesn't want to be a scumbag. Reality runs counter to will, can he not worry? Master, are you worried about anything? Uzumaki Violet asked closely. Lee shook his head. Although Uzumaki Violet is his most loyal subordinate, it is best not to tell others about this kind of private matter. Master, if you are in a bad mood, you can use me to vent. I don't want any status or benefits. I just hope to stay by your side, Master, to serve you and take care of you, forever. Uzumaki Violet said in an affectionate voice. Lee's heart moved slightly. Uzumaki Violet is such a sweet little padded jacket. Let's eat, don't think about anything else, let's pass the afternoon exam first. Lee said with a smile. Nice host. Uzumaki Violet's stinger taps. The exam in the afternoon is a practical exam. There are 2 practical exams. 1. Test your strength. 2. Verify the strength. Tsunade didn't show up for the first test of strength. Tsunade will not come until the second test of strength. Li Yi was a little disappointed. But that didn't affect his performance. The invigilator uses the ninja to test Li Yi's strength, speed, endurance, chakra and other physical ability indicators. A total of 10 items are tested, 1 item is 10, and a total of 100 points. If you can get 60 points, then Li Yi will pass the test. In physical indicators such as strength, speed, and endurance, Li Yi is almost all full marks, and there is no difficulty at all. However, for chakra, Li Yi scored 0 points. There is indeed chakra in his body, but it is extremely weak and cannot use any ninjutsu. Even the most basic avatar technique, Li Yi can't use it. Therefore, Li Yi can only get 0 points. It stands to reason that since Li Yi does not have chakra, his demonic illusion immunity should also be 0 points. However, to the surprise of all invigilators, Li Yi's demonic illusion immunity, 10 points. Illusion almost in a split second in demonic illusion. Many invigilators did not believe it, so they retested Li Yi several times. But facts speak louder than words. Li Yi seems to be naturally immune to demonic illusion. No matter what demonic illusion hits, it can be lifted in an instant. Chapter 236-concubine. In the end, Li Yi scored 88 points. There are 2 items deducted points. One is chakra, 10 points are deducted from 10 points. The second is resilience, 10 points deducted 2 points. The examiners were a little surprised. Looking at Li Yi's back, a bald-headed examiner praised, "This kid is hiding too deep, his overall strength is probably comparable to some Jonin I never knew about our Konoha village before. Also has such a character. What about you, the 3rd child, do you know him?" "I saw him drink ramen, but at that time, he had a blue nose and a swollen face." Another bearded examiner replied. "Bluish nose and swollen face. When did it happen?" The bald examiner asked in surprise. The bearded examiner replied, "It's a common thing, that is, 2 or 3 months ago, Tenten went to eat ramen with a bruised face. That is to say, 2 or 3 months ago, he was still being bullied." The bald-headed examiner couldn't help taking a deep breath. Being bullied and not showing his true strength, this little guy is too patient, right? Since ancient times, being able to endure is a big deal, and this little guy's future achievements may be quite terrifying. Ah. Second brother, since you commented on him like this, why do you think he is showing his strength now?" The bearded examiner asked. "How do I know that?" The bald examiner shook his head. "You guessed it." The bearded examiner turned over a Byakugan and said, "Let me guess, I can't guess it, but there are several possibilities. The most likely one is that his bloodline boundary has broken through. Just like the Sharingan of the Uchiha family and the Byakugan of the Hyuga family, reaching a new realm, has absolute strength, and is not afraid of being missed, so there is no need to hide." Quote. The bald examiner talked eloquently. "Second brother, it seems that you are not stupid. You have the same idea as me." The bearded examiner grinned shamelessly. In fact, neither of them knew, nor could they have known, that it only took more than 2 weeks for Li Yi to get to where he is today. How fast? In the training ground and in the preparation room. Li Yi rubbed his hands together, looking impatient. Latest news. Tsunade-sama has returned. Now that Tsunade is back, that means Li Yi will be able to meet her right away. However, Tsunade is Li Yi's examiner, so it will only appear when the next exam, a test of strength. Li Yi looked at the time. This is Li Yi's 30th time looking at the time. There are more than 10 minutes before the next exam will start. Although more than 10 minutes is not long. But every second of these 10 minutes was like a year for Li Yi. "Master, you have a good relationship with Tsunade-sama." Uzumaki Violet sat beside Li Yi and said with a smile. "Well, yeah." Li Yi nodded. If the master can get the company of Tsunade-sama, then I will be happy for the master too. Uzumaki Violet's smile came from the heart. As Li Yi's servant, she sincerely hopes that Li Yi will be happy. And she can also see that the relationship between Li Yi and Tsunade is not cheap. What? Are you jealous? It's impossible to be jealous. Uzumaki Violet is different from Uchiha Makoto. She only wants to be Li Yi's concubine. To be precise, she doesn't even want the status of concubine, she just wants to stay by Li Yi's side all her life. So, if Li Yi can be happy, she will have no regrets even if she dies. Finally, the long 10 minutes passed. The final exam, the actual combat test of strength, start. Chapter 237-beaten. Li Yi is being beaten. That's right, Li Yi is being beaten up. Here's the thing. Against Li Yi is a woman wearing a mask. Li Yi can tell by the scent of her body, she must be a great beauty. When Li Yi fought with her, the speed, strength, and defense that he was proud of had turned into a futile display. You must know that after devouring the bloodline ability of ants, Li Yi's strength is already extremely terrifying, and he can swing several tons of weight with one punch. At the beginning of the battle, in order to avoid directly killing the opponent, Li Yi deliberately withdrew his strength. But what shocked Li Yi was that he had withdrawn his strength, but the other party had not withdrawn his strength. One punch sent Li Yi flying out. If Li Yi hadn't devoured the bloodline ability of the tortoise and greatly enhanced his defense, otherwise this punch might have broken his bones. However, if the other party is really playing with him, then he naturally can't be polite. After all, Tsunade is still watching from a distance. He can't be ashamed. On the high platform in the distance, a slender woman stood tall with her arms folded, overlooking the battle between Li Yi and the masked woman. Who is this woman? One of Konoha's legendary Sannin, Tsunade. Li Yi was the first person to attack after he came to this world. Don't lose face in front of her. Since the other party is not polite to him, then he does not need to be polite to the other party. In front of women, especially in front of women they like, men like to behave. Therefore, Li Yi intends to kill the woman in front of him in seconds with the most powerful strength and the most handsome posture. Full power. Li Yi's current strength, even among Jonin, is among the best, and it's not a problem to knock out a Chunin with one punch. Full speed. Li Yi's current speed, although it has not reached the level of Jonin, is still very good among Chunin. Since the other party is wearing a mask, it means that the other party should be an Anbu Jonin. Moreover, since it is to verify Li Yi's Chunin strength, she should also adjust her strength to Chunin's state. As long as Li Yi can defeat her in this state, it means that Li Yi already has the actual combat ability of Chunin. The masked woman stood motionless and showed no signs of making a move, but just standing there made Li Yi feel a lot of pressure. Deadly fight, Li Yi is by no means her opponent. But she couldn't kill Li Yi either. After all, Li Yi has too many means of escape. Of course, the battle in front of you is not endless, it is just a test. And the woman also suppressed her strength to the level of Chunin. So don't be afraid. Li Yi took a deep breath, adjusted his mentality, and then rushed out to the woman from the side. He's already outpaced most Chunins. However, what made him stunned was that just after he ran a few meters, the woman shook her body and disappeared in place. What? Li Yi's pupils shrank violently. His naked eyes can no longer capture the speed of the other party. Doesn't that mean that the opponent's speed has reached the level of an elite Jonin, or even a cage-level ninja? What's the situation? This is just a Chunin test. You suddenly showed such a fast speed, which made me a little scared. Boom. There was a strong sense of danger behind him. Li Yi immediately turned around, clenched his right fist, and used the strength of Eating Nai, carrying an incomparably huge force, and punched the rear. Guess who the masked woman is? Chapter 238-fight. The speed of the masked woman has completely exceeded the speed that Li Yi can capture with the naked eye. Li Yi can't see her. Just by feeling, Li Yi determined that she was behind him, so he turned around immediately, and punched straight to the back with a punch. Facts have proved that Li Yi's feeling is not wrong. Masked woman stood behind Li Yi and blasted Li Yi with a pink fist. However, because Li Yi's reaction was too timely, the woman's fist did not fall on Li Yi's body, but collided with Li Yi's fist. Fight. Boom. A muffled sound. An air wave visible to the naked eye spread out. Li Yi's mouth twitched. His current strength, even among Jonin, is the best. How dare the opponent fight him? Overcome. I will let you know, what is hell on earth. Since you use all your strength towards Lao Su, then Lao Su can't be polite to you. However, something that shocked Li Yi happened. It was not the masked woman who was blasted out, but Li Yi. Li Yi's entire right arm exploded into pieces, and then his body flew straight out like a kite with a broken string. Fortunately, there is a wall 7 or 8 meters behind, otherwise, Li Yi would have to fly out at least 20 meters. But even so, Li Yi's body knocked the wall into a huge pit, and countless cracks spread out. This stone wall seems to collapse in the next moment. Fortunately, the defensive power of Li Yi's body is extremely amazing, otherwise, his internal organs would have been injured. But even so, his internal organs were uncomfortable, and the pain made his facial expressions twist. What the hell is going on here? Even the Jonin exam can't use such a strong power, right? Could it be that he was deliberately sent by my enemy to plot against me and wanted to solve me through this battle? Li Yi thought of a person, Shimura Danzo. He is the leader of Anbu, and also the founder of the Root. Only he has the power to assassinate a person above board. Because Li Yi's body hit the wall and was rebounded, he is now half kneeling on the ground, with his head lowered. Two choices appear in his mind. One is to stop the fight immediately, and the other is to continue fighting to defeat the opponent. If it was an ordinary Li Yi, then he would not take this risk, and would definitely run away or call for reinforcements. However, Li Yi chose the second option. Why? Because he wants to verify a certain guess in his heart. Almost at the moment when Li Yi made a decision, the masked woman ran at an extremely fast speed and kicked Li Yi. Li Yi immediately stood up, took a deep breath, and clenched his right hand tightly. This punch, he no longer has any reservations. Under the punch, several tons of power whizzed out. With one punch, the air explodes. The masked woman is like a walking meteorite, kicking quickly and colliding with Li Yi's right fist. Boom! With a muffled sound, the woman's clogs shattered directly, turning into wood slag scattered in the wind. Then, Li Yi's right fist collided with the smooth and soft sole of the masked woman. Boom! Another muffled sound. The long pale yellow hair on the masked woman's head was blown up by the shock. The power of Li Yi's punch made her turn 3 or 4 somersaults, and after landing on the ground, she took 7 or 8 steps back one after another. Only then did she reluctantly understand. As for Li Yi, the ground under his feet exploded directly, and the earth and stones splashed all over the sky, turning into a giant pit, and his body was kicked away by the masked woman, and after smashing the wall behind him, he stepped back 10 times in a row. Take many steps, and then barely stop. Chapter 239 Uchiha Lotus _ A sharp pain in the back. Li Yi couldn't help gasping for breath, looked at the wall with a hole in front of him, and said to himself, what kind of deep hatred? Is this too cruel? At the same time, on the high platform, several Jonins are watching. Unlike Tsunade's duty, which is to investigate Li Yi's cheating, their duty is to protect the battle from being disturbed by outsiders. Seeing the fierce battle between the two, several Jonin's faces showed incredible expressions. Is this the Chunin exam? Real or fake? How do I feel about the Jonin exam? Jonin exams can't be so brutal. At this time, a dead fish-eyed man came over, with 2 big black eye circles, attached to the ears of several Jonin, and said a word each. When several people heard the words, a hint of consternation appeared on their faces, and then they immediately turned to look not far behind to the left. There, in the auditorium, an ordinary old man smoking a pipe was watching the battle between the two below with gusto. Who is this person? 3 generations of Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Lord Hokage is here. Several people's expressions were dull and unbelievable. This is just an ordinary Chunin exam. Why does the well-mannered Master Hokage have to be present in person? Do you understand? Man was none other than Nara Shikaku, he asked in a dead voice. Understood. Several people nodded. Before, they wanted to remind Tsunade to stop the fight. After all, this is far beyond the level of Chunin. However, Lord Hokage personally ordered not to intervene in this matter. This is Lord Hokage's will, how dare they disobey? However, the more this is the case, the more curious they are. How sacred is this Li Yi, and why can Lord Hokage be allowed to go out in person? The 2 people below, like 2 streams of light, are still fighting fiercely. But the battle between the 2 of them is completely a showdown of physical arts. No one needs chakra, but uses pure speed and strength to fight head-to-head. Came to Sarutobi Hiruzen's side. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath and said, I didn't expect Uchiha's patriarch's wife to come. It seems that she is also quite curious about Li Yi. On the audience stage not far away, sat a beautiful woman with very fair skin. Her name is Uchiha He, and she is the wife of the current patriarch of the Uchiha family. Even so, in Konoha village, only a few people knew him. She knows that her position is somewhat sensitive, so she has been reclusive, and has not been out for 3 or 4 years. Because of this, her skin is simply too fair. Nara Shikaku takes a deep breath. If it wasn't for Sarutobi Hiruzen's reminder, he wouldn't have recognized that beautiful woman, Uchiha Makoto's mother, Uchiha He. Uchiha, who has been shutting herself at home and never going out, why is she acting uncharacteristically today? Is it just to watch an exam? Or say? At this moment, countless speculations flashed through Nara Shikaku's heart. The battle is about to be decided, let's go over and say hello. Sarutobi Hiruzen put away his pipe, got up slowly, and walked towards Uchiha, not far away. Nara Shikaku immediately followed. As Sarutobi Hiruzen's prediction, so Li Yi did not use Ri Golden Hoop, Door Fruit and other means, so he is not the opponent of the masked woman, and has fallen into decline. But masked women don't feel good either. Both can be described as lose-lose. Chapter 240 battle is over. The training ground has been devastated by 2 people. This training ground can only withstand Chunin level battles. But the battle between the 2 has reached the level of Jonin. Even so, no one dared to stop the fight. After all, this is Hokage-sama's will. At the beginning, they all thought that how did Li Yi offend Lord Hokage, so that he could let the high-ranking Lord Hokage release a public revenge for private revenge. However, as time went on, they realized how wrong they were. That Li Yi is definitely not easy. His strength may have reached the level of Jonin. No wonder Lord Hokage didn't stop the battle. It turns out that Lord Hokage has long known the strength of that Li Yi. Today, Li Yi's heroic appearance will be deeply imprinted in the hearts of many ninjas present. Uzumaki Kushina also came. She had just returned to the village after completing a B-level mission, and she heard that Li Yi was taking an exam, so she came here in a Pishinpitian way. I thought Uchiha Makoto was here too. Logically speaking, how could Uchiha Makoto not be here? She likes Li Yi so much, it's not normal not to be here. But I didn't expect that she was really not here. However, to Uzumaki Kushina's surprise, Uchiha Makoto's mother, Uchiha Ho, is here. And he's still talking to Hokage-sama. Auntie doesn't go out all the year round, why is it uncharacteristic today? Could it be? Thinking of this, Uzumaki Kushina suddenly took a deep breath. Did Makoto do that? So my aunt is here. To see my future son-in-law. Uzumaki Kushina's face showed a rotten girl look. After all, the suggestion of cooking cooked rice with raw rice was her suggestion. But then again, Uzumaki Kushina looked down at the training ground below again, and couldn't help but sighed. That guy was beaten too hard, right? What kind of hatred? As for being beaten like this, who is the woman in the mask, the pale yellow one? The hair looks familiar. Uzumaki Kushina began to think back to the Anbu members of Konoha village. Training course. Lee Yi was short of breath and sweating profusely, holding his knees with both hands to keep himself from falling. If you want to become Chunin, you must defeat the woman in front of you. However, with his own strength, he can fight her a few times, but he can't beat her at all. So you can only use some external force. Masked woman didn't give Lee Yi a chance to stop at all, and ran wildly. Lee Yi is ready to take out the Rui golden hoop. Jonin on the high platform suddenly shouted loudly, "Time is up." Lee Yi passed the exam. The masked woman stopped immediately. Because of inertia, her body slid 2 or 3 meters on the ground, and finally stood 1 meter in front of Lee Yi. Lee Yi was quite surprised. He didn't expect that in order to pass this exam, it was not to defeat a woman, but to persevere under the attack of a woman for a certain period of time. 20 minutes have passed since the battle started. 20 minutes, not bad. Lee Yi smiled with satisfaction. Although Lee Yi was beaten with a bruised face, the woman was also dripping with sweat. Because of this, her body smells even more. This scent is so nostalgic. Lee Yi sniffed his nose hard and smiled at the masked woman. The masked woman turned around without saying a word, wanting to leave. Lee Yi immediately stepped forward, stretched out his right hand, and wanted to hold her soft little hand.